Hey, I'm Avinash, and in this video we are going to discuss what is Web 3.0. Now obviously if you're coming from a background where you are thinking about investing in NFT, you're thinking about making an application in blockchain, or maybe you're thinking about cryptocurrency or playing with cryptocurrency, and people say that it is backed by a technology which is known as Web 3.0, and you are searching what is Web 3.0. In this case, if you're watching this video, this is exactly the place where we are going to discuss everything related to Web 3.0, where it can be implemented, what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, and obviously how Web 3.0 is different from Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. Okay, now let's discuss first of all what is Web 1.0. Now obviously if we want to discuss what is Web 3.0, we have to understand the differences among all these web. So first of all, the very important thing is it is all static. Web 1.0 was all static content. The content was very hard to consume, obviously, because it was all static. And finally, the content used to flow in one direction. So you can see this is the sort of a content source, if I may, and this is the user who is consuming the content, and you can see the direction of the flow. It's just one direction. We can also say unidirection. So this is what we call is Web 1.0. Okay, now it was not very user friendly, and obviously people were not loving it. So we had something known as Web 2.0. What was that? It was built using technologies like HTML5, CSS3 and JavaScript. And obviously since Web 1.0 was not user friendly and Web 2.0 is something which is advanced, it was easy for the average user to use. Finally, you can see it paved the way for user generated content. So you can see websites like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. What are these websites? They're not the content creators. They enable people like you, people like me to create content, and with that I can actually reach out to people. Now, if I talk about in terms of the flow of data, you can see this is the source of the content, this is the consumer of the content, but here you can see, which is one of the difference, the content is flowing in two directions. I'm a creator of a content. I can actually push the content into the platform, and I can also consume the content from the platform. Okay, it sounds very fancy, but what are the problems with traditional Web 2.0? Well, first of all, it is centrally controlled. So if I talk about myself, YouTube can probably block my channel. And again, I don't have the control to that. If I talk about your data is at the mercy of the platform. If they block you, you don't have the access to the data. And obviously, if you are going to fight it, that's technically at the mercy of the platform. And finally, policies are not often transparent. When they say that they are blocking a particular person, obviously it is not something that we can say that this is the reason they have blocked it. There are so many reasons, and often it varies from platform to platform. The policies are not very transparent, and these are the few points which actually led what we call is Web 3.0. Okay, now let's discuss what is Web 3.0. We have discussed what is Web 1.0, we have discussed what is Web 2.0, and what are the challenges we faced with Web 2.0 are actually solved with Web 3.0. First of all, if I talk about decentralization. In Web 2.0, the platforms were centralized, controlled by a single entity, but in Web 3.0, platforms are not controlled by a single entity, they are decentralized. That is why they are not owned by a single entity. Secondly, they are built using something known as smart contract. Now, obviously, if you don't know what is smart contract, you can go to our channel and you can watch a dedicated video around it. But obviously, if I have to give a very simple analogy of that, smart contracts are basically algorithms. Then if I talk about whatever data that goes inside Web 3.0 cannot be altered or edited. That means you have the confidence that whatever data is going inside that platform cannot be edited, so you are aware that it cannot be manipulated against you or maybe against someone else. And finally, it is permissionless. Now, if I talk about being decentralized, how that works, so you can see we have a particular user here. He or she is obviously connected to this particular person. This particular person is connected to this particular person. This particular person is connected to this particular person. I hope that is visible. Yes, so you can see there is not a single entity which is connected to all of them. You can see some users are connected to some people, some users are not connected to everyone. So you can see this is how the process of decentralization works, and this is the backbone of Web 3.0. Okay, now I have often seen startup founders and all the people who are interested in this technology of Web 3.0, how the flow of data works. So in this particular slide, we are discussing that. So we have a user who has some data which they want to push to Web 3.0 application. So you can see this is basically a browser-based application which is going to push the data because obviously the technology is not yet mature. And after the data is pushed, it reaches to something known as a smart contract. What is a smart contract? As I discussed, these are set of rules which decide what goes in and what does not go in. And finally, if everything is right from here, you can see the data goes inside something which is known as blockchain. Now obviously this may be confusing. Avinash, what is blockchain? We will discuss in a separate video because obviously in this video we cannot discuss everything. Okay, now we have discussed what is Web 1.0, what is Web 2.0, what is Web 3.0. Now let's discuss what are the advantages we have with this Web 3.0. So first of all, data privacy. Obviously, since the data is not controlled by a single entity, nobody is going to misuse it. Then service is available without center control. So obviously, if you're consuming any service, if you're using any service, obviously that depends upon use case to use case. But yes, most of the services are not controlled by someone as known as single entity. Then finally, we have transparency. So whatever we are doing, it is transparent, it is available on the internet, so anyone can check what is being done. And finally, it is borderless. So it is not controlled by so-called borders created by a human being. Okay, so whatever has advantage obviously will have its disadvantages as well. So what are the disadvantages we have with Web 3.0? First of all, the technology is not yet fully matured. So maybe you're a startup founder, maybe you're thinking you want to develop some applications. You have to take into account that this particular piece of technology is not yet fully matured. So there is a good possibility that there are some innovations which are coming down the line which can actually help you build that kind of product or service around Web 3.0. Secondly, it is right now complicated concept for average users. So obviously, if you're thinking about using Web 3.0 terminologies, or maybe I should say workflow in your particular piece of application, this could be a bit complicated for average users right now because again, as I mentioned, the technology is not yet fully matured. Now let's discuss the most important point where I can use Web 3.0. So obviously we have to understand what are the use cases of Web 3.0. So Web 3.0, since it gives us no central entity control, it is decentralized and I have over 100% control over my data. It is all transparent. It can be used in healthcare. Again, the applications are still being developed. There are so many applications which are using Web 3.0, concepts of Web 3.0 to build healthcare application. Then we have real estate applications, we have finance application, obviously, and finally we have insurance application. These are the two most important area where Web 3.0 is disrupting because these are the most important segments which society feels or maybe developers feel that they have to disrupt. Okay, so I hope you understand what is Web 3.0. In this short video, we try to discuss a lot of things and obviously a lot of things could not be discussed. So obviously, if you have some questions around it, maybe you're a startup founder, maybe if you're thinking about developing something around Web 3.0, if you have some questions and if you need my recommendation, my suggestion, put that in the comment section below and I'll let you know what we can do with that.